Hello, everybody, and welcome to another G Draft. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these, but I've been having a lot of fun with Rivals of Ixalan Limited, and I had a league with some fun games and some interesting interactions, and I wanted to share it with you. Because we're doing this sort of looking back, it means I'll be working from replays today, like last time, and I know that that's not ideal for some of you. You prefer to see the draft. Won't be able to do that today. My apologies, but this is how it works for me. I will tell you, my first pick was Legion Lieutenant, so I was perfectly happy being in on vampires, and yeah, that worked out fairly well. 3 Dusk Legion Zealots, Skyblade, 2 Martyrs of Dusk, Bishop Soldier, double Forerunner, Mavrin Fane, which is fun. Came around very late. Squire's Devotions, Sadistic Sky Marcher, Voracious Vampire, Sanguine Glorifier. Terry's always nice. Happy to get Terry in there. Shining Aerosaur is filling out the curve because maybe I didn't get critical mass of vampires, but hey, I can just say they're vampires. I can just mark them as vampires. 2 pieces of premium removal and a Captain's Hook, which is super fun, as hopefully you will discover. So yeah, downside of working from replays, you don't get to see the actual draft. Sorry about that. Upside, we get to sort of blow through the first couple turns. There's no sort of waiting for decisions to be made, and I get to look at the games with the benefit of hindsight, which is to say, judging my play. The only other downside to working from replays is that sometimes it can be tricky to make Magic Online do exactly what you want it to do, so shout out to Lee from the Migo team for assisting me in making this all function. So, since we don't have to wait around, let's not wait around and get right into round 1. So, round 1, and let's begin. Keep a pretty reasonable hand here with the Dusk Legion Zealot, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to lead with that or the Bishop Soldier. Probably just the Bishop Soldier to start getting some attacks in, but then my opponent goes turn 2 Relentless Raptor, and that sort of puts an end to that because I know that the Soldier's not going to be getting it anytime soon, so I figure, well, I'm going to be taking 3 regardless. I may as well take 4. Get the Dusk Legion Zealot out there. Draw a 3-drop, which is nice for my curve. I have a way to deal with this eventually in the Impale, which is fine. They follow up the obligated attack with Relentless Raptor with a Swaggering Corsair. So now they've got 2 3/3s, and this turn I sort of figure I probably just want to throw my Dusk Legion Zealot under the bus so that I don't fall super duper behind. It doesn't really matter which one I block, so I just block there. Only taking 3, going to 13 instead of 10. And they follow it up with a Frilled Death Spitter. So they've got 3 power creatures, and I've got Terry over here. So I go ahead and put Mark of the Vampire on Terry, because I figure, well, I'm going to be taking a whole bunch of damage, and the Relentless Raptor is obliged also to block, so if I tap the Death Spitter, I can force the Relentless Raptor into a chump block. I gain 4, I go back up to 17, and then they're only hitting me for 6 the following turn. Sadly, they, of course, have Moment of Triumph, which means it just eats Terry. So I gain my life. I do go to 17, but then they're hitting me for 9, and then they put Sea Red on the Relentless Raptor, and in fact hit me for, well, more than 9, 11. I play the Bishop Soldier and Mavrin Fane. Sort of, this is desperation chump mode. I don't really know how I'm supposed to get out of this. I can trade with the Death Spitter to prevent 1 damage. I gain some life from Bishop Soldier, and Mavrin Fane just chump blocks the Relentless Raptor. And I go to 3. They have a 5/4 first strike and a 3/3, and they follow up with a Majestic Heliopterus. Hey, more lifelink, though. Sadistic Sky Marcher. I can't really play it, so I just scoop up game 1. Trust me, this draft gets better. Okay, game 2. On the play, Would I like to play first? You bet I would, but not with this hand. This was my first pick, by the way, Legion Lieutenant. But this is not really a keep, so I mulligan to... Wait, I thought I said this draft got better. It's been a while since I've been faced with a mulligan to a 6/6 lander. So we go to 5, and we end up with this, which is actually a super keepable 5. A Plains, a Swamp, a Skyblade of the Legion, a Mavern Fane to potentially follow it up, and with the Skyblade probably being able to get through, get a 1/1, Mark of the Vampire, gain some life back. Sure, this sounds great. I see a Swamp, and I'm trying to remind myself what I do with that. All right, it's gone. I keep that on top. That makes a lot of sense. All right. So Plains, Swamp, Skyblade gets out there, and opponent doesn't have a turn 2 play, which is super important. They don't have the Relentless Raptor again. There's Mavern Fane. Skyblade gets out there. 1/1 lifelink Vampire. Great. Okay, the plan is working. The Mull to 5 is slowly but surely cooking off. And I drew another land, so I can even play Mark of the Vampire on something the following turn. The ever-embarrassing non-raid Swaggering Corsair, Grey Ogre. And I drew Forerunner of the Legion. So now it's a decision point of if I play Forerunner and try to set up even more, or if I just get Mark of the Vampire down. And I decide, let's be super aggressive. If this was my opponent's best play, let's just try to widen the life total gap as quickly as possible. So Skyblade gets in, makes another Vampire, hits for 3, I gain 3. So they very quickly play a Majestic Heliopterus, but I don't care because that can't block the Skyblade. They debate attacking with Swaggering Corsair and then decide not to, which is fun. I would have been fine with either way. And I drew Impale, which will be great in future when they play a creature I care about, because right now neither of these are going to be relevant to me. Skyblade in, more Vampires. And it's time to play the Forerunner. And I go looking for... I do want to go look. Ah, good. Now we can finally see the deck. So here's the deck. Here's all my Vampires. Bishop Soldier. 3 Dusk Legion Zealots. Yes, 3. Remember that. It'll be relevant later. A second Forerunner. Legion Lieutenant. Martyr of Dusk. A second Martyr of Dusk. A Sadistic Sky Marcher. A Sanguine Glorifier. And a Voracious Vampire. And then my non-vampire creatures, I've got a Territorial Hammerskull, a Shining Aerosaur, and then my removal, of course, I have the Impale. It's in my hand. I have a Slash of Talons, which I believe was a sideboard decision, contract killing. I have a Captain's Hook, which is neat, and 2 copies of Squire's Devotion. So, pretty good. I don't think I do it now, but generally speaking, Forerunner into Forerunner is pretty sweet. So let me see what I end up picking. I do. All right, I'm going to go Forerunner into Forerunner, because then when you play a Vampire, they both go off, which is pretty nice. So my opponent hits 5 mana, doesn't do anything, and passes the turn. I decide to Impale the Heliopterus. I'm not entirely sure why. I guess I'm maybe worried about some sort of tricksy blocks. I guess I just want to make sure the Skyblade can get in. What's fun here is this combo. So Skyblade attacks. I sort of skipped through the triggers there, but Mavern Fane goes off, makes a Vampire. A Vampire enters the battlefield under my control, so the Forerunner triggers, so the Skyblade, before damage is even dealt, gets a +1/+1 this turn. So I guess maybe I was just trying to make sure that they couldn't stabilize in any way, but looking back at it now, that was probably needlessly aggressive. So Forerunner, 2 triggers. It's its own search, and I end up going to look for the Legion Lieutenant. That makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. And then, of course, the Forerunner gets a trigger there, so the Skyblade's 4 power, and then the Skyblade attacks, and Mavern Fane goes off, and then 2 Forerunner triggers go off, and the Skyblade is now a 6/8. And they still don't have the Divine Verdict, which is definitely something I should have been thinking about, but can't really afford to play around it. Opponent's down on 3. I'm on 36. And they play Field of Ruin and tap 3 mana and concede. I'm not entirely sure what the goal was there, but yeah, so that Mull to 5 kind of got away from them. And on to game 3 of round 1. All right, game 3. And don't forget, this is a normal Swiss league, so if I lose this, there's still 2 more rounds, you know, just because I don't want to spoil you on it. This seems like a perfectly keepable hand. Can I rearrange cards in the replay? Oh, I can. Look at that. I didn't even know that. Yeah, lead with either of these 2 drops, a great 3-drop in the Territorial Hammerskull, and then follow up with either killing their biggest thing or Sanguine Glorifier, probably. This seems great. Let's keep it. Opponent mountain, we go swamp. Opponent goes second mountain and plays Tilonali's Knight, and I decide to lead with the Dusk Legion Zealot because neither of these creatures is going to be blocking the Tilonali's Knight, so may as well get a little 1/1 out there and draw a card and end up drawing a swamp. They play Field of Ruin, so they're off their second color, which is nice, and they don't have a dinosaur, which is very good for me, and they get in with their 2/2 and pass the turn, which is also very good for me. So now I have a bunch of options. I can Territorial Hammerskull, which blocks this easily unless they draw a dinosaur, and they've had plenty of dinosaurs. I can just play a Legion's Lieutenant and make this a 2/2. I can play a Captain's Hook, or I can play a Forerunner. Now the problem with playing a Forerunner is that it puts a vampire on top of the library, meaning I'm definitely not drawing a land. So I get in with my 1/1 because I'm not going to chump block with it. My deck has plenty of life gain anyway, and I decide to just get Terry out there and hope that Terry can hold back the Tilonali's Knight. End of turn, my opponent taps 1 red, and then realizes that Fire Cannon Blast is a sorcery, plays it on their turn, and hits him with Tilonali's Knight. So this was a great draw, Sadistic Sky Marcher. So in with the Dusk Legion Zealot. Sadistic Sky Marcher, revealing... Which one got revealed? I revealed Forerunner, because I'm probably casting it next turn, and I don't want them to know that I have Legion's Lieutenant in hand. I guess they could know that I had a Glorifier. That's probably fine. So, sorry, blew through that. They hit me for 2 with Tilonali's Knight. Another Fire Cannon Blast for my Sadistic Sky Marcher, which makes me kind of sad. So it's time to play the Forerunner. I do indeed go looking for, yes, the other Forerunner, because I figured, well, heck with it. And at this point, with them at 17 and me at 13, I'm prepared to actually block, if I recall correctly. Yeah, I'm just going to all right, let's just go ahead and trade and just get this stupid 2/2 out of the way. But they have a moment of triumph. So not a lot else going on. No other creatures, thank goodness. But I decide, all right, heck with it. Let's trade, and it doesn't really work out for me. So Dusk Legion Zealot, I play on the off chance that I draw a Plains. I definitely should have tapped both my swamps there, because then I would have been able to play the Legion Lieutenant, but that did not end up happening. So I just have a little 1/1. I attack with my 1/1 Dusk Legion Zealot, and they cast Shake the Foundations to kill both of them, which makes me really sad that I didn't have the Legion's Lieutenant in play. They would have done it in response if I cast that turn, obviously. But so in with the Tilonali's Knight again. Still no dinosaurs for my opponent. 3 cards in hand, 6 lands in play, and still nothing going on. Draw my 5th land. Play another Forerunner of the Legion. This time I go looking for... That's the chat, sorry. This time I go looking for Mavrin Fane, which seems like a reasonable pickup, and I just get the Legion's Lieutenant out there, and if they have removal for it, then so be it. Miss out on a trigger there, but that's fine. My opponent now taps 4 for a Majestic Heliopterus. Tilonali's Knight now hits for 3, and I take it? I take it. Sure. Sounds good. Well, because now I have contract killing for the flyer, and I just decide to get in with that. I guess I'm now prepared to trade Tilonali's Knight if they have a dinosaur. I killed the dinosaur. 2/2's coming at me. I figure, heck with it. I guess I'm trading Forerunner for a second Moment of Triumph or something. I don't know what this is going to be, but turns out, yeah, it's another Moment of Triumph. So they're now back up to 19. They've traded both my Forerunners for Moments of Triumph, which seems pretty good for my opponent. And then in their second main, they play, yeah, Stormfleet Pyromancer, killing my Legion Lieutenant and setting me back to nothing. Oh, and then bonus, a Kinjali's Collar. Why not? Okay, so my opponent now has no cards in hand, but I have nothing in play, and I'm at 7. But I do have 7 mana. So, what's the play? Well, I almost, as you might have seen there, I almost cast Sanguine Glorifier first, which would have been incorrect sequencing. So instead, Maverick Fane hits the table, and I'd blow off both my treasures to play Sanguine Glorifier. Now I have a pair of 3/3s. Hope they don't hit a dinosaur. They don't. They only attack with Stormfleet Pyromancer, and I'm just as happy to trade off for Sanguine Glorifier, because I don't really care about it. And I was happy enough with the 1 Squire's Devotion. Now I have a second one. And we're going to go ahead and just suit up Maverick here. 4/4 lifelink. Makes a vampire. Maverick attacks. Makes a vampire. Hits for 4. Feeling a lot better about myself. Tillinolli's Knight, still just a 2/2. Comes on back. Still nothing for my opponent. 1 card in hand. All that mana, nothing going on. So I decided to play Captain's Hook. Get some more lifelink out of it. Suit up one of the... So, because I have an option here. I could suit up Maverick Fane and make him a 6/4 with Menace. But that's sort of putting all my eggs in one basket. And this way, I have these vampires. This vampire is going to replace himself when Maverick Fane attacks. And it's a 3/1, and the Kinjali's Collar is only a 0/3, so, you know, spread it around. They all have lifelink, so this seems totally fine. So attack with both of them. Maverick Fane makes a replacement vampire. No blocks for my opponent. They go to 8. I go back up to 16. Feeling a lot better about this game now, but they could certainly draw some sort of bomb at any point. No attacks, no plays from the opponent. Drew Skyblade the Legion, which is very nice. So I go ahead and make the same attacks. Make another vampire. So my opponent tries to trade with that vampire. Realizes it needs to use Menace, so I'm all too happy to trade my token, my half a Squire's Devotion, or my 1, at this point, 5th of a Maverick Fane for a Tillinolli's Knight, expecting a combat trick that never appears. So I do actually just get to trade my token for 3 life and a Tillinolli's Knight. And so then after combat, I play this Skyblade, and I'm debating, do I just run this out, put on the Skyblade right now? I'm going to have the mana to suit up one of my vampires either way, and I decide, all right, screw it. Let's just try to close this game out as quickly as possible. So I put the Squire's Devotion on the Skyblade, and my opponent concedes. So yeah, that's getting mana flooded, not drawing a threat for my opponent, and the power of Maverick Fane and his vampire friends wins the day. All right, round 2. All right, not that round 3 isn't also fun, but this is my favorite round. This has some fun stuff, which is why I was so keen to record this. So I'm on the play. I'm happy to be on the play, and there's no black in this hand, but got a Bishop Soldier, have a Slash of Talons for removal if I need it, so I'm happy to keep this hand. I'll just zip through the first couple turns. Plains, opponent plays a Grasping Scoundrel. I get the Bishop Soldier down there. I don't draw a Swamp, but that's fine, because I'm okay to get Bishop Soldier down there. I don't really feel like trading for a Grasping Scoundrel. So they get in for 2. They follow up with a Direfleet Hoarder. Third Plains is not great, so I decide, well, I guess we're just going to do this then. Squire's Devotion, and I'm going to attack. And if they want to chump block with their Hoarder just to get a treasure, well, I guess that's what happens. That's not what happens, and I get in for 3. But my Vampire token, I'm happy to trade for either of these creatures. I really don't care. Sadly, the Bishop Soldier gets caught in a water knot. But they still give me the opportunity to trade for either of these things, so I figure, all right, well, I'll trade for the one that's always a 2/1, and if they can make use of the treasure, so be it. Still no black mana, so I have to sheepishly pass the turn back. My opponent now has 5 possible mana, and they play Forerunner of the Coalition. This, of course, is the Pirate Searcher. And they end up searching for Dire Fleet Neckbreaker. Now I wish I hadn't given them that treasure. And you'll notice a common theme among the creatures we've seen from them so far. They're all pirates. So I get Forerunner of the Legion, and this is an interesting decision point. If I actually go search for something, or if I'm just playing Forerunner as a 2/2 for 3. And I decide, fine, I'll do that, but I'm going to get a Martyr of Dusk. So the reason I get Martyr of Dusk instead of the other Forerunner is it'll trade for any of the creatures, even with the Dire Fleet Neckbreaker, and leave another blocker behind, and I can play this and keep up Slash of Talons. So that's the plan anyway. So they cash in their treasure. They play Dire Fleet Neckbreaker. I lose 1 life to the Forerunner, and they only attack with Grasping Scoundrel as a 4/1, and I take it. And maybe I shouldn't have, but I didn't really feel like trading it for the Forerunner, even though this the buff effect is not going to be super useful. In our Tap Tap Concede nickname podcast, we called the Neckbreaker the Dire Fleet Cheerleader because it just sits on your side of the table, never entering combat if you can possibly avoid it, which you'll see happen. Except they also play a Soul of the Rapids, which is going to be sort of annoying with me sitting here on 3 planes. So still just in with the Grasping Scoundrel again, so I just go ahead and slash it. 4th planes. Really hoping or wishing I had Divine Verdict here. So that's when they would have naturally found the red for the Neckbreaker. And now they're just attacking with Soul of the Rapids because they don't need their pirates to do anything. Except they do play a Fathom Fleet Border. Not only do they not lose 2 life because they do control other pirates, but I lose 2 life. Thanks, Forerunner. So, remember I mentioned the Dusk Legion Zealots would come up again. This wasn't even the instance I was thinking of. But yeah, here we are, all 3 Dusk Legion Zealots in my hand with no swamps. Oh well. So now they're going to start getting frisky because the Fathom Fleet Border has 3 toughness, so I can't just easily trade it off for the Martyr. But I sort of can't really go to 1, so I have to double block and lose both my creatures. But hey, they leave a 1/1 behind. That's something, right? I don't even know what my hope is if I do draw a swamp. Oh, and that, sorry, was them casting Recover and getting back their Fathom Fleet Border. Except that they instead decided to play the Stormfleet Aerialist, which is a 2/3 flyer because of raid, and it's also a pirate, and it's in the air. So this is just lethal. These 2 creatures are lethal on their own, and I draw a Contract Killing. So that's game 1. Yeah. Okay, game 2. Now this looks scarily similar to the previous game, except that I already have all 4 of the planes, but this is not a hand you mulligan, so, you know, I'm going to go ahead and keep it. You know, we've got the 1 mana removal, we've got a creature, we've got a Squire's Devotion we can play on it. I'm actually really happy to see the Skyblade on turn 2, so I go ahead and get that out there, because that carries a Squire's Devotion even better. Grasping Scoundrel, sure, the awkward play from the opponent there, getting the Grasping Scoundrel on turn 2, but they also have all their colors, so it can't be that bad. But hey, Squire's Devotion comes down, Skyblade can hit for 2 with lifelink, and the Vampire can trade for the Grasping Scoundrel, which I'm all too happy to do, because I know that pirates are relevant for my opponent, and if they want to recover it, they're welcome to do so. And immediately the Skyblade gets water knotted. Swamp, though, hey, swamps exist. Martyr of Dusk is fine. And they actually, wow, I had forgotten that they did that. I was actually joking, but they certainly did recover their Grasping Scoundrel. So for the turn here, I draw Voracious Vampire, which is great, because that actually gives me a much better play than putting Squire's Devotion on my Martyr of Dusk, which I was probably going to do. So yeah, Voracious Vampire lets me get in with Martyr of Dusk for 3, and then pass the turn back. And Squire's Devotion carries Or sorry, Voracious Vampire with Menace carries Squire's Devotion a lot better than Martyr of Dusk does. Sailor of Means is a good blocker, though. And, hey, guess what they're casting? Oh, it's just the Fathom Fleet Border. All right. It's not the scariest pirate. But they do have a lot of good blockers, and I'm certainly not trading my Menace creature for their Grasping Scoundrel. So my turn, I draw Contract Killing. Of course, I only have one swamp at the moment. And I decide, well, I guess we're just going to do this. So Squire's Devotion, in on the Voracious Vampire, make another 1/1. Now I have Lifelink and Menace. And I don't attack there, because sure, I've got Slash of Talons, but that doesn't actually help me in a double block situation. They'll just snap, put both of these in front of this, and then Voracious Vampire trades with Fathom Fleet Border, and I gain 3 life and 2 for 1 myself. And there's no way to arrange the damage such that I can use Slash of Talons to kill both of these, and it's not worth it. So I just sit here because, 3/3 lifelink blocker is not bad, especially with their Grasping Scoundrel, which they do send in, as well as the border. And I'll keep trading off my tokens for their Grasping Scoundrels. But it was not to be, because Dire Fleet Poisoner flashes her way in. And when it enters the battlefield, target attacking pirate you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So indeed, the Grasping Scoundrel becomes a 3/2 and just eats my thing. But then I Slash of Talons the Grasping Scoundrel in response, not because I am so afraid of this, but it uses up my mana. As soon as I cast it, I realize, I should have saved it for this Poisoner. But also, I just don't like the idea of them getting a critical mass of... I mean, they're all pirates. I'm afraid of the Neckbreaker. But guess what they have? Depth of Desire. So they just bounce not my token. They bounce the pirate, which I thought was a odd choice, but I'm totally fine with that. And then they pop their treasure to replay the pirate. So I have Impale now with only 1 swamp. Not that I'm like hard in on impaling any of these. I do wish I'd saved the Slash of Talons, because it would have given me a much better double block scenario with the Voracious Vampire. But I kind of got a freebie there when they depths their Grasping Scoundrel instead of my Vampire token. So I guess because they wanted to save it with Slash of Talons, but you're all already yelling at the video that I didn't see that line. But I don't know. I just don't. So far, this game, they have used Recover and Depths of Desire to get this 1/1 for 1 back in their hand. And their deck is full of better pirates. And I don't know. They value Grasping Scoundrel a lot higher than I do. They play a land. They swing with their 3/3. I'm at 18, so I figure, sure, come on through. And then after combat, they play Stormfleet Spy. Also a pirate, and so they draw a card. And we draw planes and don't have any good attacks. And then the end of my turn, Expel from Orazka with the City's Blessing, putting Voracious Vampire back on top of my library, and Squire's Devotion goes to the away place. So this looks a lot worse for me now than it did 1 spell ago. And Stormfleet Spy in, Border in, Scoundrel in. Okay, this time, please let me trade with your Grasping Scoundrel. And I figure, I need to kill some pirates. I'm not even blocking this because I'm worried about the damage now. I'm concerned that we know they have Direfleet Neckbreaker in their deck, and we know they have Forerunner, which means they basically have another shot at Direfleet Neckbreaker. I'm just trying to get pirates off the table. And it works. Look at that. 2 pirates off the table. Boy, I hope we draw a swamp for one of these removal spells. Well, right, of course. Voracious Vampire was on top of our library. Sure, Voracious Vampire. Do I attack? No, because there's... I maybe could have attacked... They would have just taken it, but I maybe could have attacked there because if they double blocked, I could just kill the Poisoner, which means they definitely wouldn't have blocked. So, Unclaimed Territory. Shockingly, the chosen creature type is Pirate. 3/3 comes through again, and yep, time to just keep getting pirates off the table. Trade everybody across. Bishop Soldier. Oh, yes, Bishop Soldier. There's a good blocker. Blocks Direfleet Poisoner, has lifelink. Opponent doesn't attack. 2 cards in hand, still not cast anything, but I've managed to stop their attacks because they don't feel like trading off their poisoners. There's Plains number 6. So that's exciting. All right, casting a spell. They have drawn another Sailor of Means. For those keeping score, also a pirate. So they got 3 pirates in play. Please don't ever draw Direfleet Poisoner. These become 3/4s. You just can't block that. Captain's Hook. Oh, okay. Captain's Hook is interesting. So I play Captain's Hook, and I figure, well, all right, screw it. I'm going to put it on the Bishop Soldier, because it's a 4/2 with Menace and Lifelink, and at the very least, if they attack with any of these, I can trade. They've now hit... They got a mountain there. Not that they need it for the Neckbreaker. Again, they had Highland Lake turn 1. They've got Unclaimed Territory on Pirate. They've got Treasure. So they just don't have it in hand. They don't have either of their shots at Neckbreaker in hand. But I don't feel like trading the 4/2 Menace Lifelink for a 2/2. Which I think is why they attacked. I think they're banking on that. That's what we wanted to see. Plains number 7. Terrific. Well, I still don't feel like attacking. Because again, so in that instance, Direfleet Poisoner's tapped. Though they have all this open mana and they had 2 cards in hand. But if I attack with Bishop Soldier there, they just put both Sailors in front of it, and I trade a Bishop Soldier for 1 Sailor of Means. Which is not great. So, the coast was clear last turn. Why wouldn't it be now? Direfleet Poisoner comes on through. And they got a Headstrong Brute, which is... not great. It's got Menace, certainly, because of all the other pirates, and it can't block, which is nice, but... So we draw a Sanguine Glorifier. Now, Sanguine Glorifier really changes the game here, because I can put a counter on the Bishop Soldier. I'm at 10. My opponent's at 15. 15 is technically 3 hits with this. Headstrong Brute can't block. And now, assuming that they have nothing in hand, which I feel like has to be the case... a double block from the Sailors doesn't kill the Bishop Soldier. So I'm a little more comfortable attacking, giving myself a life buffer here. So I go ahead and attack. They just don't block. They go to 10, I go to 15. We exchange life totals. Sanguine Glorifier. 3/3 for 3 and a white. Put +1/+1 counter on another vampire. You and target player exchange life totals. Absolutely busted. Oh no, they've tapped red for pirates. Look who it is. It's the Neckbreaker. What a great turn to have tapped out. Look at all these pirates that don't have summoning sickness. Sailor of Means is a 3/4. Sailor of Means is a 3/4. Headstrong Brute is a 5/3 with, a reminder, Menace. So they're attacking with a 3/4, a 3/4, and a 5/3, and I have a 3/3. So they're attacking for 11. So I take 11. I go to 6. And I'm praying, please let me draw a second swamp. And I draw a Dusk Legion Zealot. It's foil. That means I only lose 1 foil life. Well, I don't really know what else I'm supposed to do, so Bishop Soldier in, they're never going to block. So they go to 5. They go to 5. We go to 9. And Dusk Legion Zealot, I'm sorry, we go to 8. Sadistic Sky Marcher with only 1 swamp. Oh boy. I'm at 8. Can I live this turn? Let's find out. Sailor of Means and Headstrong Brute. So this is interesting. I guess they're afraid. So they still won't attack with the Neckbreaker, because obviously I just trade off. But I feel like if they attack with everything there, this is 5 Menace damage. I didn't even think about this at the time. If they attack with everything, block, this is 3, so that's 8. That's 12. So even if I kill this, that's still... I think my opponent should have attacked with everything on that turn, in retrospect, now that I'm looking at it. Well, I can't deal with this. I just can't let this thing hit me for 5 every turn, like my opponent's been doing with my Bishop Soldier, so I got a double block. I mean, I know I can cast Sky Marcher next turn, so I'll have something else with lifelink to chump. So, you know, we're going to do that. Dusk Legion Zealot. Really, really wanted that to be a swamp. Because if I get a swamp, I can play Contract Killing and then use the 2 treasure to chain that into Impale. All right, let's see what the Dusk Legion Zealots brought us. Legion Lieutenant. Another creature that needs black mana. All right, well, this time I don't attack because attacking there, they could just put both of these creatures in front of it, and I'd only get to kill the Poisoner, and I gain 5 life and go to 9, and then I've only got the 1 blocker, and they don't have lethal there. So I don't know, maybe I should have attacked, because they would have been forced to block them being at 5. So maybe I didn't think that through. You know, maybe my opponent and I are making suboptimal attacks all over the place. So this time they get a little bit more frisky, but not as frisky as I would have thought. I still don't know at this point, when I'm at 4 with only 2 blockers, I feel like they should just attack with everything. So Bishop Soldier trades off, and I'm confident enough in what's happening here to gain 5 life off this and go to 9 and then back down to 6 from the Sailor that I don't throw my Dusk Legion Zealot away. So we end up at 6. And, oh man, it's funny looking back on these games. I don't even like how I played those last 2 turns. But they follow up with the Direfleet Hoarder. I guess they're sandbagging land? I don't know what's going on in their hand. All right. It's make or break here. Dusk Legion Zealot number 3. So for everyone keeping score, we drew Dusk Legion Zealot and then cast it and drew Sadistic Sky Marcher. Then next draw step, we drew Dusk Legion Zealot into Legion Lieutenant. And then our third draw step in a row, Dusk Legion Zealot. We're at 6. We no longer have lifelink. Screw it. We're playing Dusk Legion Zealot. Because if we can draw a swamp off this Zealot, we can play Sadistic Sky Marcher and put a Captain's Hook on it and get a bunch of lifelink. Or we can play Legion's Lieutenant and make these all 2/2s. Otherwise, I'm basically dead. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. What's being at 5? What's the problem there? But we do get Maverick Fane. This is a big deal. Get Maverick down there. Captain's Hook on the Dusk Legion Zealot. They're at 5. They kind of have to double block this here and go to 2. Or else they go to 2. What if I have Moment of Triumph? And I don't care about losing a blocker because the blocker is going to replace itself thanks to Maverick Fane. So, all right, great. Look at that. They do it. Double block. Order the blockers differently. I don't care about them having mana. Also, this lets me kill a pirate. So Hoarder gives them a thing. Captain's Hook falls off. Don't care. Put Captain's Hook back on the creature with lifelink now. Pass the turn. 3 attackers, 3 blockers. Starting to claw back. No attacks. 4 cards in hand. All that mana. Nothing going on. What am I going to draw? I've never been so excited to draw a swamp. I've never been so happy to draw a swamp. Swamp into play. Contract Killing. Get the Direfleet Neckbreaker out of here. Pop a treasure. Sadistic Sky Marcher, revealing Legion Lieutenant. Pop a treasure. Legion Lieutenant. And the opponent concedes. That game is got to be one of the most back from the brink, just never concede, play to your outs games of Magic I've played in Limited in a very long time. And if I never see another Dusk Legion Zealot again, it'll be too soon. Wait, that was only game 2. Oh no, we still have a game 3 to win. What did I say? Well, I mean, this actually is a perfectly fine hand, especially with double Forerunner. We just got to hit that 3rd land. So sure, we'll keep it. Fine. Also, our opponent mulligans to 6, which makes me a little bit happier about it. And hey, there's an even better turn 2 draw. They have a turn 2 play, though, Direfleet Hoarder, but, Skyblade blocks that really, really well. Oh, actually, Dusk Legion Zealot also just trades for it, and I really want to make sure I can hit my 3rd land. So, yeah, we're just going to put the Zealot out there, and if they want to trade, they can trade. Uh-oh. It's Forerunner of the Coalition. Hey, let's just... I wonder what pirate they're going to search for. Oh, look. It's Direfleet Neckbreaker, potentially on turn 4. Well, happy to trade. Well, now not even potentially. Now for sure on turn 4 because I traded with their Direfleet Hoarder, but I just need to get pirates off the table. Land out. Forerunner. Looking for Martyr of Dusk, like I said, because it trades with multiple things. On tap, they hit their land anyway, which I assumed they were going to do, but, I still maybe should have thought about potentially not giving them the treasure, but who knows. Neckbreaker out, lose 1 life. Forerunner comes straight in, and I take that hit, because I know that I got the Martyr coming up, and I know that I can play Martyr and either Skyblade or Legion Lieutenant. Like, I'm going to have multiple blockers on my next turn, one way or another, so... Martyr of Dusk. Get out there. Forerunner gets bigger. Legion Lieutenant. Get out there. Forerunner gets bigger and even bigger still. Now Forerunner's a 5/5, and I figure, well, heck, let's take our opponent to 15. On their turn, they bounce the Martyr of Dusk, which really sucks. And finally, have you ever seen this before? Have you ever seen a Direfleet Neckbreaker attack? It's in the red zone. Did you get lost? Ma'am, are you lost? Okay, let's trade I'll trade your pirate aggro gold card for my Orzhov vampire gold card. That absolutely. I actually think I'm getting a way better deal out of this, because with only one, with the Neckbreaker turns all of their pirates into really aggressive threats that I have to just trade my creatures away for, or sometimes not even trade. Whereas the Legion's Lieutenant definitely buffs my whole team, but I have other synergies in my deck. Whereas without the Direfleet Hoarder or Direfleet Neckbreaker, all the pirates they're creatures I can handle. So I actually think I'm getting a much better deal out of this trade, assuming there's no Skullduggery. One time, no Skullduggery. Oh, it works. Just got to hope they don't have a second one. Okay. Sailor of Means, and I take 1. Oh, I am at 9, I guess. 4 under trigger. Well, we're just going to get two drop vampires out there, which also means Forerunner gets to attack through Sailor of Means. Well, past Sailor of Means. Right. They do have recover, don't they? I'm still really happy in that moment trading Legion Lieutenant for Neckbreaker, and they can't cast Neckbreaker that turn, which is, I think, pretty important from a position of tempo of the game. 5 mana and 4 3-drops in hand. Which one wins? It's Squire's Devotion, because I want to gain some life. It makes another nice blocker, which also gains me life. Which also, this entering play triggers the Forerunner, which makes the Skyblade even bigger. I just want to try and use the Skyblade to close the game out in the air as quickly as I possibly can, and every bit of lifelink just makes my opponent's game plan a lot harder. They're also on 4.5 minutes on clock. Not that that's actually relevant, because I don't tend to win or lose games based on time. It gets tight, but they just... I will lose a game to just losing the game of Magic, typically. A second Squire's Devotion. Another land there would have been great, so I could have cast 2 things, but I figure, well, let's just be as quick as possible. Captain's Hook on the Skyblade. 4/4, Menace, Lifelink. They're at 8, so hit them for 4. They're dead in the air next turn unless they can kill the thing. Well, Spirewinder, okay, that blocks, except that Skyblade has Menace. And I think my opponent missed that. I mean, it's their last 2 cards in hand, so I don't know what else they could really do. And if they're going to make an all-out attack, they should have attacked with Direfleet Neckbreaker as well. I'll trade there, the Forerunner. I'm happy to take 3 from the other one. But yeah, Skyblade is lethal. Let me recall. Do they try to block? Yes, they do. Okay, so they did miss that Captain's Hook also gives it menace. Captain's Hook has a lot of text. And that's the match. Captain's Hook having a lot of text is even further relevant in round 3. Round 3, no swamps in this hand, but 2 white 2-drops, so I'm perfectly happy with that. Island, plains, swamp. Swamp. There we go. But this time I'm going to lead with the Bishop Soldier because I already have my 3rd land, and maybe they're a slower deck and I can just start sort of hammering them with a 2-2 with lifelink. But of course they play Sailor of Means, which is fine because I still get to hammer them with lifelink. Even more so with Voracious Vampire, but I just go for the Forerunner here. And I end up looking for, whoops, there it is, Legion Lieutenant. Because I figure at this point, I've got all these vampires. Also, I know that next turn I can play Legion Lieutenant, use the Forerunner trigger to make the Bishop Soldier big enough that, well, actually, how do I do this? Yeah, I do. That Sailor can't even block it. Of course, it has menace anyway, so I don't know why I was worried about that. But what they do end up doing there is playing Windstrider. So the menace is actually ends up being relevant. So they double block, and I trade Bishop Soldier for Windstrider, which I'm pretty happy about. They still have their Sailor, but I'm okay with it. I play the Voracious Vampire on the turn 3. I sort of blew past it. Sorry. I play Voracious Vampire on turn 3 there because it uses my mana better, and when I get a 4th land, then I can play Skyblade and Legion Lieutenant. Or I have 3 2-drops, rather. I can play 2 of my 2-drop vampires whenever I hit my 4th land, which is now. So, which 2 am I going to hit? Well, Dusk Legion Zealot. Let's draw a card. It's another swamp. Forerunner, put that on itself. So the reason I put it on itself there is because then I put one Forerunner trigger on the Forerunner and the other one on the Voracious Vampire. So they're both 4/4s. This one has menace. This one doesn't. I think I'm gonna do okay no matter how combat shakes out here. For some reason, my opponent double blocks the one that doesn't require double blocking, doesn't have menace. I guess they just really want to get the Forerunner out of here. So I don't know why I said for some reason. That makes sense. Forerunner's making the combat math really irritating. So yeah, I've now traded a Bishop Soldier for a Windstrider and a Forerunner of the Legion for a Soul of the Rapids. I'm actually fine with all these trades. I don't like these colors. This is the same colors that were a problem for me last time, but it's not a Direfleet Neckbreaker. It's a Mausoleum Harpy, which is fine. So I end up in this case just deciding, well, let's just make 2 creatures with menace. So now I have the Captain's Hook on Dusk Legion Zealot, which is now a 4/2 thanks to the Legion Lieutenant. And I figure, you know what? I'm not going to let them just 1-for-1 trade for my Voracious Vampire like they've been doing. I'm only just going to attack with this 4/2. And maybe I should have been more aggressive there, especially with Slash of Talons. Queen's Bay Soldier. That's fine. So now I decide, well, let's just get really frisky, and we're going to put Mark of the Vampire on the creature with menace. So now it's a 5/5 menace lifelink and a 4/2 with menace. And let's see how they decide to block this. They don't, and they go to 3. And I play a Skyblade. I certainly didn't expect them to not block there, but now they play Spirewinder. They have the City's Blessing, so Spirewinder's a 3/4 Mausoleum Harpy. If a creature dies, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So, they've got much better blocks now, but they are at 3, and I'm at 30. I wouldn't feel comfortable if I was at 3 against a Vampire deck at 30 with a creature with menace and a creature with menace and a Legion Lieutenant and a Skyblade. In fact, what's relevant there is with 2 creatures with menace and 4 blockers, they're actually just dead. I can just attack with all my creatures, and they spend some time figuring out that they actually can't win that game. So that works out okay. All right. Game 2 of round 3. It all comes down to this or the next game, depending on if I win or lose this game. This is not a great hand, is it? 5 lands, Dusk Legion Zealot, again, Terry. It's not a great hand, but it's not a mulligan either, so we'll keep it. Island, swamp, another island, plains, and we Dusk Legion Zealot into a swamp for the first time in his miserable life. Opponent didn't have a play on 2 islands, so I'm assuming they're not going to have a play on 2 islands and Evolving Wilds, and indeed they don't. I don't feel like putting Squire's Devotion or Squire's Devotion on a Dusk Legion Zealot or just playing Captain's Hook. And awkwardly, I don't have a second Vampire in my hand to play the Sky Marcher on turn 3 like I'd like to. I do have this Territorial Hammerskull, though, and that's totally fine. My opponent immediately Waterknots it, which is, that's fair. So I decided, all right, we'll just pay full rate for the Sky Marcher as I top deck another swamp. So now I have a 2/2 with lifelink, and, I can maybe make it even bigger with Squire's Devotion or Captain's Hook or something. And at the end of my turn, they sea legs it. So now it's a 0/2. The saddest creature with lifelink, one with no power. Slippery Scoundrel, which I certainly did not at this time respect as much as maybe I should have. Not that I had any way handy to deal with it, but I was sort of like, okay, sure, Slippery Scoundrel. But the City's Blessing gives it hexproof and can't be blocked is pretty relevant. So I decided, all right, well, fine. Let's just start getting frisky. We'll make the Dusk Legion Zealot into a 2/2 with lifelink. You want to trade? No? All right, great, cool. Let's play this Martyr of Dusk. Tempest Caller. This is got to be one of the most awkward Tempest Callers. It's got to feel bad. The tap all your opponent's creatures when all your opponent's creatures is 2, like a 2/1 and a 1/1, and you're attacking with a 2/2. But it is a 2/3, and that stops a lot of my attacks. So it's not like the worst thing in the world. I do, however, have this Captain's Hook, which some of you might be thinking, as I am, well, I'll put it on the Sky Marcher, and then I'll just make it back into a 2/2 with lifelink, because I give the +2. But that's not as big as it could be, and my Dusk Legion Zealot over here already has 2 power. So you know what I'll do? I'll put it on the Dusk Legion Zealot. It's got Menace. They don't have 2 blockers, so I'll get in for 4, take them to 12, go back up to 23. This all seems fine. And they impale it. They impale the Dusk Legion Zealot, and the hook falls off. So it's like, okay, that kind of sucks. So on my next turn, I figure, all right, well, let's play Voracious Vampire. We'll get that out there. We'll put the Menace on. I don't know. Heck with it. We'll put it on this guy here, because if they double block it, I can kill the Slippery Scoundrel. That's fine, and we have the extra mana. So sure, we'll put the Captain's Hook on the Sky Marcher and turn it back into a 2/2. It's a 4/4. This was my favorite thing, because I mentioned Captain's Hook has a lot of text. One of those lines of text is, equipped creature gets +2/+0, has Menace, and is a pirate. So this is a Vampire Soldier pirate. What does Sea Legs say? If the creature is a pirate, it gets ++0/+2. Otherwise, it gets -2/-0. So I should have done that a turn sooner, but I just didn't see it. So yeah, now my Sadistic Sky Marcher is a 4/4 flying Menace lifelink. So after being mildly flabbergasted at my amazing turn of luck, great, in with the Menace lifelinkers. Take my opponent to 6, play the Skyblade, pass the turn, hold a land. My opponent plays Tomb Robert, and that's not going to be enough, because I draw Squire's Devotion. Suit up the Skyblade, 6 power of lifelink in the air, and that is all she wrote. So there we go. Thank you so much for joining me for this whirlwind tour of this draft. There was just a lot of interesting. I thought they were interesting games and interactions in there. This has to be one of my favorites, Vampire Soldier Pirate, and yeah, I don't get to do these as often as I'd like because I typically don't want to show you when it's like, hey, let's watch me lose at Magic, and you can watch me do that every week on stream if you really want to watch me lose at Magic. But yeah, thanks so much for joining me. Thanks, Lee, for the assist, and yeah. Talk to you next time.